Hello ladies, welcome to Homemakers Radio. I hope you can get a few things done and listen while you work. I'm here to just keep you a bit of company, and remember, these are just my opinions and you don't have to follow them. Do what works the best for your home and your family. Before you get about your business, I'd like to show you my teacup. It looks like it is a sweet pea. I don't know what you would call it other than that. And this is from a company called Clarence, and it looks like it's from 1952. And there are no other markings on it, but it's a very interesting shape. It looks like a square with scallops on it. I found that quite intriguing, and I also found another one in pink, which I'll show you some other time. Now, to begin with, I'd like to encourage everyone, do your absolute best to take care of yourself and to look as well as you can. Look healthy, look bright and strong, and even if you're not, at least give yourself that look by taking care of yourself, getting dressed in something nice, bathing beforehand, and if you have to wash your hair, fix your hair and your face and use your skincare, and just do your absolute best, because you are a created creature by God, and you're not an animal, and you have special attributes that God put in you, and you can use them to His glory. One of the challenges that I have made during these times of captivity is to thrive, not just survive. So we want to come out of the other side of it having learned something, having a greater knowledge, having a zest for life, and being happier. Now, some of the things that we can do is right there in your house. And if you ever wanted to sit down and have a conversation with someone that had some meaning to it, you could sit down and between the two of you make a list of the things that the home can provide for God, in serving others and yourself. And you would find the list would just be beyond anything that the commercial world can do. Now, the commercial world, the corporations, is where we're receiving our limits on our lives and the dictating that's going on about how we will live and where we will go and how long we'll stay and what we will wear on our faces. And so if you can avoid that, some of the tension goes down, some of the stress is reduced. And I have noticed myself, since I've been in captivity since July last year, I don't miss a thing. I don't miss pushing the cart around. I don't miss those boring old stores. They're going to have to change something before I'll go back. And I have noticed that I'm sleeping a little bit better. Not that I didn't sleep at all, but I have seen a difference in the quality of my sleep and the quality of my thinking also, but that a lot of that could be attributed to the exercises. So I'd like you to include, when you take care of your appearance, include your exercises. I like to get dressed up and fixed up first and then do my exercises. I even like to be presentable and have my appearance taken care of when I sit down to do my mail. I like to feel like I'm prepared and that I'm not being pushed by it or pressured by it, or that it's just a drudge job. And getting dressed takes away that feeling of being under a lot of constraints and doing unpleasant jobs. If at least you are dressed pleasantly, it changes things a little bit differently. So I'd like you to go and do that if you have not got dressed yet. And I realize a lot of you have learned your lesson. You don't need me to tell you that anymore. I don't want to leave it off, though, because I'm getting pretty good at saying it. So I don't want to let a good thing go. And also, if you could list all the good things that you can do regarding God, others, and yourself in the home. And I'll just start out and give you some ideas. I told you before that we had kept church open all this time, and that worship means a lot to all of us and out here, and people drive a long ways to come. But nobody can make that to get all their fulfillment out of that one worship service on Sunday. You have to back it up by daily prayer and daily Bible study and Bible exploration, and trying to sift meanings out of things, going a little deeper. the other day I remembered that one of my children had loved the word diligence, and he had found a scripture that said, "Do you see a man who is diligent in all his ways? He shall walk with kings. He shall not walk with mean men." And we went for hours sometimes talking about what that scripture mean. What did diligent mean, and what did it mean? How it would elevate you? How would other people are usually attracted to people who are like themselves, and they can see a light in your eye. If you're diligent, people will notice, and also it will affect the way you work and the reputation that you gain as you get older. And so that would be something that you could do at home. As a matter of fact, I started some Thrive Academy classes on Zoom for some of my grandchildren, and we have a word every day, and they have to look it up and report the next day, and it's a word from the Bible, and one of them was diligent. And so every day they have to read what their homework was, and this is just extra. Their parents take care of their basic education, but this is Thrive Academy. One day it will be Thrive University as we all get older, and we're still going to be doing it. But these are things you can do at home. You can have your own, supply your own singing and your own worship. Let's say you go to worship service, but you weren't happy with the song choice, and you weren't very blessed by the subject, the topic of the Bible study or the sermon, or you just didn't feel you had anything in common with the other people there. And so what you do is you go home and you delight in the fact that you can have your own little worship service Monday through Saturday, and even on Sunday again when you get back, and you can choose the songs you like and the scriptures you like, and you can look up words you like, and you can become edified by the word. And also, if you have somebody else to talk to about it, you can have a little session with them. And so you don't want to depend on that, although you don't want to miss assembling yourselves together like the Bible says. Remember not to think that those people are going to supply all your needs, because they all come from different backgrounds. Some of them converted from the world only recently and still not quite understanding, how to conduct themselves, how to live, what things to avoid, what things to embrace. And you see people doing things and you think, oh my goodness, I don't want to be around them. But what you do is you come home and you have got a life that you can have, and it's all under your own schedule and your own control. Now that sounds a bit radical, but I'm not running down going to church or attending worship, which I think is incredibly important, and I don't ever skip it, but I don't depend on it to be everything that I need, because it's throughout the week that we build our faith, not just on the Lord's Day. And every day to me is the Lord's Day. And this is one of the great things that homeschooling did for me, because all of the subject matter brought in the Bible, and all that missing Bible study and all the things that I always knew something was missing, from church. Well, there it was all week long. You would dissect a sentence that was from the Bible. You would learn the difference between a sentence and a paragraph and an essay in a book. And then you would learn to add and subtract from the tribes of Israel in the Bible. And this gave a light to our eyes. And so these are the things you cannot get in a worship service, that everybody, you can't cater to any one person, so you cater to yourself when you're at home. And so worship is one thing you can do at home that's for God, and you make sure that you don't skip that. Do it sometime, set some time aside every day to do it, and it just can be what you do. It's just between you and God. And so then, of course, we have others. We know we have others in our home. We work around them all the time. We clean up after them, and we help them. And one of the things that I decided to do was turn my home into some kind of an inn, so that my family, my descendants, could come and spend a few days at an inn, and then I would have the experience of doing it, conducting it, and they would have the experience of living it and attending it. Well, next month I am going to try to, I've been looking up the luxury trains and what you would be doing on luxury trains, and I found out so many interesting things that on these luxury trains where there's a limited amount of guests allowed, they will even have cooking classes, and they will have speeches, and they will have different kinds of entertainment. They will have games. They have even shopping. The train will stop at certain places so you can get out and go shopping. And also the menus and the food were so interesting. And I chose the Royal Scotsman, and the children will all, and the adults will all learn about the history of trains and how they work and how they run, and everybody will be assigned something about in that study of trains will be assigned something about the railroads and the trains, and this will be very edifying for all of us. And so this is the thing that I wanted to do for others, and now that it's been found out that we are doing this, there are some people that just want to come by during a certain event that we're going to have, such as our music. If they're going to play the fiddle or do some kind of entertaining, or we're going to have a special foods, they want to come over just for that time. So we may have more than just our family. And also, so for others, and then also if you can't do things like that, you don't have the energy for it or the money, you can do a lot with your own newsletter, with writing, with sending out good words and good things, sending it out, and you don't have to leave your home. And most of us get mail pickup outside of our house. You put your flag up, and the mail comes, the mail carrier comes and gets it, puts the flag down. And so this is how we build our faith and help the faith of others, is by how we let our Christianity show and through service to other people. And so for now, it has to be our own families. But isn't that wonderful? I was discussing today the idea of having a shop in our own homes, because I can remember in little country places, especially on the farms, there'd be a little shed or a garage that a woman would have things that she crocheted, maybe dishcloths or something someone would need. And my mother-in-law would go down there and buy something from them. And these were not things that were regulated by the state, and they didn't have licenses to have a shop. But women used to do this, have a little place in their home or in a little tool shed or something, and would have their own things. And so we really have been enjoying that. I have my fake money that I distribute to everybody, and they buy all the things that I have made or I don't want anymore, and they have to pay for their dinner. So we get all the shopping desires too. We include that too. So I think this is such and they really have enjoyed it as well. And now there are many things that we're planning to do. So I spend my time planning all this, plus thinking about what my friend is writing about Allison on the Oregon Trail, and what this girl is going to do, and what her future is going to be, and what she's going to end up like. That keeps my brain occupied. Now, ladies, I also want to make sure that in the home we can do something for ourselves, and I think it's really important to have an off day, deliberately create an off day. That means the day before you're going to have to get your house in order so that you can have an off day, and that's a day that you don't do anything that is very difficult, and you let your senses rest, and rest your brain a little bit. Maybe just do what you would do that makes you feel slowed down. There have been several women who have taught things like this on videos that are very good about being able to slow down. And just having a deliberate off day. Of course, you have to realize you're not off the next day, and quit taking an off day. And And another thing that I thought that I might do in another month is turn the home into the lake house, because that would be when I get out my stock tank, fill it up with fresh water, and put the floats in and let everybody swim and cool off. And so there are so many things that you can do at home. I bet you could outdo me in making a list of all that you could do, all that the home is useful for. It's also a place of teaching. You can teach something. One time, years ago, we had at church decided to use our homes for, it was a Women's Day, and it was Saturday. It was just our local church. It was nobody else. And each lady that wanted to could volunteer to teach one thing in her home about home living. And so one of them did laundry. And so we were all invited to her laundry room, and she showed you how to sort the clothes out and how to wash them and what kind of water to do, how to read labels on the clothing and what to do, and what kind of detergent was good and safe. And she did an excellent job. And then another woman showed how to prepare a meal and freeze it so that if you had to leave or you were in a hurry, you could get that out and use it again. She did a great job showing all the things that could be prepared. And so, and then another woman showed how to clean out a kitchen shelf. Just get all your ingredients out, all your spices out, and how to put them back in orderly. And then another woman showed how to mend clothing by hand, and also how to sew a button on. I don't know if people are wearing clothes with buttons anymore, but at the time we just really enjoyed it. And trying to think, and then one place we went, we had lunch, and the woman taught us how to set the table and how to have, what to have for lunch, and it was absolutely enjoyable. And I think they still remember it. It must have been 30 years ago, but they really enjoyed it. But this is better because you don't have to leave your home, and you don't have to be gone all day doing this, and you don't have to inconvenience yourself or anyone else. You can just do it yourself. And so the home, oh yes, and one lady taught us how to iron a man's shirt, and she was an expert at it, and was absolutely fantastic. And then there was another lady that taught us other things about cleaning the home or arranging things, and we just thought that it was enjoyable. And I think there were about 10 of us that did it. And so these are things that you can use the home for, though. The home is a great place for teaching. It's an academy. Everything can be used to edify somebody else in some way, if not teach them. And so if you'd like to get together with somebody and list all the things that you could do in the home as a tribute to God, to the family, and also for yourself. And the home is great because we ladies who are at home are not pressured by the world or someone at work to tell us what to do every minute. Now, when you go to work outside the home, your time belongs to someone else. In fact, almost your soul your whole life is taken up that day, and your mind kind of goes into a complete different mode at work, and it's hard sometimes to come back home and focus on what you need to be doing, and it will use up all your strength. And it's the same with public school. It uses up the children's minds and all their strength, so when they come home, they're not sure about their purpose in life. And so home and homeschooling can teach children the purpose in life. And one of the things children suffer from is not feeling that they have a purpose, but we can find it by living at home. And I wanted to talk about teaching children at home for just a minute or so, and that is especially boys that are young, they'll not be interested in it, and sitting down and doing school. So you can have them count their steps out to the mailbox when it's time for you both to go check the mail. You can have them count the times they wash their hands under running water. How many times you lather up your hands and wash them. If you have a requirement, 2 or 3 or 4. They can count the minutes or the seconds that they brush their teeth. they can um, they can do many things that, like when they spell their name, uh, it can also be used for art. Have you ever thought of getting a little canvas and some watercolors? And you can get watercolor canvas now, um, to watercolor on and write their name on it and turn it into a work of art. And that way they know the letters, at least of their own name. And writing a letter to their grandmother, just a card, or making a card and writing to their grandmother is very, very important. And the way you get them interested in that is you write a card to them or a letter to them. And we used to play mailbox. We had mailboxes on the doors, and we had mailboxes sitting around for each other, and we would write to each other. And it was always such a thrill to get something, get a card or a letter. So that's what you can do, is you can write to him and he can write to you. And that can just be once a day. Now, all about when we want to take care of ourselves and do things like our hobbies and the things that make us happy, uh, someone's always wanting to know, well, how much. Somebody comes in and says, oh, you make those? Oh, I'd like to buy some from you. And next thing you know, you find yourself making things for people. You only make it as long as it makes you happy and as long as you want to do it. But you don't turn it into a business where you're obligated for a long, long time, and then it starts to fade. The interest starts to fade, and you're not as interested. It's not as much fun. And I noticed this with making things like quilts or clothing, that when I made them because I wanted to and I was interested in it, it was great. But then when people started wanting to place orders, it became a labor that wasn't. I lost my interest in it. It didn't feel as artistic, and it's the same with painting. They might love the drawings that you do or the paintings, but when you start doing it for other people, sometimes it's not the same type of experience. So you just have to go with what you're able to do and not let it take over your life, because if you're a homemaker, there are a lot of things that have more priority than that and need to be done. All right, so now I want to do something about the cell phone problem with you're in a family group and maybe you're at dinner, but no one's really listening to you and you're not able to communicate, not able to connect with anybody. And that's pretty common. Now, we had a situation here where years ago our ladies class just kind of took a dive because some of the women had moved away, and some of the elder ones had passed away, and then others had gone to work. And so I thought, well, this ladies fellowship group that met every Thursday for a period of Bible study and then an afternoon tea luncheon, I was just content to go ahead and let it dry out, and because I have plenty to do and I could always start something else. And so I was really content, and it got down to one. They would come all winter, and I thought, well, that's okay. I'll go as long as they want to, and then when it's over, it's over. I'll just move on to something else that's maybe more effective. And not everybody responds to a fellowship time, and some people like to do things in different ways, by mail or by some other reason. And so I was just really ready for it to stop, and so I decided that we'd have one more celebration, and we would have a luncheon, and I would invite some people I hadn't seen in a while to come to this special luncheon. And 12 people came. And I thought, oh, and I was going to quit. But what we found out was, when these people came in, I was thinking about that cell phone. And we call it cell phone, but we might as well just call it a phone, because who has anything else anymore? But I was thinking about, I wonder if they're just all going to sit around and look at their phones. And apparently they just all turned them off or left them in the car or something, and I never saw one phone come out of a pocket or a purse or anything. Everyone was chattering. I had tables around with so that 4 could sit at each table, and everyone was so engrossed in, they were making eye contact, they were talking and chattering about everything, and it was just such a nice buzz. It just sounded like busy bees. And so I wondered how I think that maybe the phones they've gotten a little bit less interested in the phones. I think that it might be a phase that will pass and there'll be something else, but this might not last all that long. They become boring after a while when you do the same thing over and over. But nobody used their phones. I didn't hear a buzz, nothing. And these were young people too, and older people. And the teacher that came, I invited a lady to present a lesson, and she came and she was used to teaching children in the public schools because in Oregon, this is the strangest thing. In Oregon, there's a law that you must allow Bible teachers to come in and teach children if they want to go to a separate place, and it's called timeout, and learn a Bible lesson. And so this lady has been doing it for 30 years, I'm sure. And since the schools were closed, she wasn't doing it so much, so I invited her to come and present one of her lessons to us in this ladies class, and we only had about 3 people that were supposed to come, and it ended up being 12 by the time the word got around. And she taught us an illustrated lesson of the wise man and the foolish man, and the house on the rock and the house on the sand. And she mentioned, and we sang the song, and it was young people, older people, all doing the motions, and she mentioned that you might think that this is a child's song, but that the story was one of Jesus' parables and part of his Sermon on the Mount, where it was directed to adults. And so she very, very adroitly turned that story into an adult story, and yet the children were all in the same room, and we all appreciated it. And the women were absolutely glued to her, watching her. She had brought a watering can and a little tub, and she was pouring water on this house on the sand, making it crash. It was so interesting and so unique. But there were no, even afterwards when we were having our lunch, I noticed they were all talking to each other, and there were no phones. So we might just have to kind of get used to being with each other and realizing that the phones don't matter. But if you're stuck with a situation, and this is just my own, I didn't look up anything, maybe you could do a better job of finding out what to do about it, get your own phone out. They're not paying any attention to each other or you or anything. Get your own phone out and compete with them a little bit and say, look what I just found out. Do you know what this word really means? And start using your phone for different things. And then, turn on your favorite video and start playing it. And compete with it a little bit. And if that's the way they want to communicate. So, I mean, there must be some unique ways that we can get past this where people do not want to communicate, they just want to look at their phone. And what I would like to see, this is just my imagination, and we don't all think alike, is if you could get a little art book that looks like a cell phone, and some little water paints, and start painting in your cell phone and painting a picture, and then they're going to be very curious to see what you're doing, or writing, and just use it as a competition for them. Those are just some silly ideas, but maybe you have something better. Now, also on as far as the home goes, it's very important not to get bored at home. So what do you do when you've had enough of this and you're ready to go out somewhere, and there's nowhere to go, and you don't want to wear a mask, and you don't want all the restrictions, and so what do? Well, you start changing things in your home to make it more interesting. Now, what I liked, my experience, now that I'm elderly, I've had more experience than some of you, but my experience is that I drew back to my memories of all the places I had been in my life and places that I have stayed, and some of them fancy, some of them not so fancy, and started to learn to arrange my home so it had the same conveniences in it, and then change the colors and change things around a little bit to make it more interesting. And I get my ideas, a lot of them, from things other people have posted, and particularly videos. But I also go through my old books and my old magazines, try to get new ideas, and I have a big um, book that I put things in plastic sleeves and keep it in for reminders and for ideas. You could do that, and there's no reason to be bored at home. And particularly be mindful of the children. They need some kind of structure once in a while. I know we like to be unschooled and we like to relax in our own home, but children really come alive. You've got to keep their minds alive because we were built to learn and to grow. And so you have to have some kind of a program. And one of the things that we really enjoyed in a recent Zoom class that would be appropriate for the home was that everybody in the class got to tell something that they knew, and how edifying that was. And we were edifying one another, and we were all growing, and it growing spiritually and mentally. And so one person could show how to do some stretch exercises, and another person could explain how to substitute a good product for a bad product, for instance, or something, if you want to go more natural with your foods, how to make your own something, your own condiments, your own crackers, your own salad dressings. You can do that on your Zoom classes and at home with your people. And so our last Zoom class, we invited some extras as extra people that were special to us, and one lady had been in the hairdressing industry, and she had, I was no longer in it, but she had learned a lot from it about hair care, and was teaching us how to care for your hair without the chemicals, without the harsh ingredients and the things that are generally used in that industry. And she taught us what kind of brush to use and how to brush your hair. And she had her daughter there, and her daughter was her model, and she had her she was brushing her hair and how to dress it, how to braid it, how to curl it, coil it, how to get it up out of your way, and what to do about unhealthy hair, thinning hair. Oh, it was so good, and I didn't get a recording of it. I doubt she'll ever repeat it exactly the same way, but that was so interesting. And then I took my turn and taught them how to get in and out of a door gracefully, which is something I learned in one of the classes that I attended years ago. How to get in and out of a car, how to get in and out of a door. And so the next time we will have a few more of those things. But there's so many things that you can use the home for. You don't have to have a Zoom class. You can have home classes. You can get books and learn how to do things, or watch other people's classes and learn how and use them for your home. And if there's no one there and you're all alone, do it anyway. Plan yourself an itinerary and have a day at home, and have a day on a train or a day at an inn, or a day in an academy where you're learning things that are, we call it thriving, because we call it Thrive Academy. So it's okay to teach as long as you've got something thrivey to teach us. And so we want to edify and build one another up. And this is what the home is great for, and that's what you should be doing for your children. Edify and build them up. But if you're alone, do it yourself. Just do it for yourself, and come out of the other side of all this happier and stronger and with more confidence, and able to withstand more. Now, there is a scripture in Proverbs that says, a brother is born for adversity. I pondered over that years ago, wondering what in the world does that mean. And then one day I started to sift it and filter it, and I thought, that's like when you meet this really quiet person. They don't say much, and you just wonder what their interest is and what their strength is and everything. And then there's a disaster, and that person comes alive. That person feels a purpose. So it's like he's saying, or she's saying, this is what I was made for. I can tackle this. So when adversity comes, we'll be prepared for it, and we might have all these qualities lying latent in us, but we're not being used. And when comes on some kind of adversity or some kind of hardship, we can come alive and we can be there for it. So when you're able, you can tell someone in your family, I'm available if you need me to teach something or to tell something or to I find it very boring just to sit around. This is just my own opinion. I find it very boring just to sit around and visit. I like to know something and for them to tell me something interesting. And so even my grandchildren have to teach me, and I'm hoping that I can learn more the next time they come. I've got to keep up with them because I've got to be relevant, and I want to be included. Here's another thing about the home and about homeschooling too, is that it's not age divided, and so we include the grandparents, we include the parents in our activities and our learning. And it always thrills me when one of my children or grandchildren will call me and tell me something that they couldn't wait to tell me. They wanted to include me in what they had learned. And so one of the greatest influences for me was the Bible, because I'd read where the women should be teaching children and teaching other women and taking care of the home, and I didn't see any of that going on around me. It was the 1960s, in which I was a teenager, that a lot of the women had gone to work, and even in the church they weren't teaching classes for or taking anyone under their wing and helping them in the home. And I thought to myself, well, I'm not going to sit here and accuse them or anything. I'm going to try to learn and be that what I wanted, be that woman I wanted to learn from. And so I wanted to make sure that I could find out, and I did. I was able to gather a few books and attend a few classes that weren't church classes, and learn a couple of things. And but mainly I learned by living at home, and that's where you're going to get your best training, is through your experience at home and through your mistakes. And I learned on our Zoom class where we had the hairdresser there and everything. There was one lady that was teaching, that was showing something about bread, and she mentioned that her bread didn't turn out when there was a low pressure temperature or level in the atmosphere with the weather. And I didn't actually know all that, but she would be confused why her bread worked in some place that they used to live, but the recipe didn't work somewhere else. And so these are things that are these are sciences that haven't been explored very well. And so I like to learn from other people, and I think you would too, because it keeps your brain stimulated. And also we need to tell what we learn too, and that is also probably you learn better by teaching. I hope that you got a few things done today, and I am going to quit a little bit earlier than I normally do, and I am trying to save my voice and also not talk until my voice is cracking. But I wanted to tell you a couple more things that happen on trains, is that they stop sometimes and attend something in a local town, and then they get back on and continue the journey. And also there are some trains that I noticed when reading about these luxury trains, was that sometimes a group that is interested in one thing will book this trip and just go on a train. And there was one that was years ago, probably decades ago, that was a fiction writer's train trip. And so everybody that went there was trying to write a book or a novel, and they were learning, and there were several teachers that came, and also other people that had managed to go ahead and publish, and were telling them all kinds of hints. And they would go to the conference area room, which is probably the little living room that they have, and I don't know what they call it, but and there would be a schedule of who would be speaking, and they would tell you how to write more vividly or concisely or clearly, and phrases that are overused and that sort of thing. And it was only these writers that were on this train. And there was the ones that were learning, and there were the ones that had learned, and there was a video made of it, but it was on VHS years ago. I don't know if you could ever find it. But so there's so much you can do, and you can create your own in your home. And some of these trips cost as much as, you know, what we could buy a little house here in the U.S. And so you can do this in your home. You can by studying, and also you can get a video and watch it. Well, this is what we're going to do. Is one of our activities is to actually attend a train ride. They make these wonderful videos that you can get online where you feel like you're actually sitting there on the train watching the scenery go by. So we're going to be doing that too. And so ladies, let me know what some of your ideas are, and comment on some of the things that I have said. Now, I don't have comments on the channel. These are just being made for my posts, so please click the link that I provide and go and listen to this over there and see what else is going on over there. Now ladies, I hope you have a wonderful day and that you're increasing in wisdom and in knowledge and in health. And socially, I also want to say things are going to change socially, because now that people aren't out as much, and of course as things open up maybe they will be more, but we're all going to have to learn manners and social skills again, because before, when the world and the commercial world kind of ran us, and we always behaved according to what the rules were out there in the commercial world. But now I think people are finding more hospitality going on in the home. So we're going to have to learn how to act when we visit and in someone else's home, you know, what to bring them, and just subjects that would be interesting, how to edify, how to build up. These might be some subjects that you might want to study, and what to say and not to say. And I think that if you can have people of all ages around in a get-together like that, like I mentioned, the lady that came in and taught us a lesson, where all the ages were there, even the children, is that they learn conversation and they learn tact by observing and listening to what the adults do, if we can keep them with us. And so that is one thing that I liked about homeschooling, is that everybody interacted together and learned from each other. So ladies, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope to get back here more often, get my life together so I can speak to you more often, and hope you get a lot done while you listen. And I'll see you next time. Bye.